new drinks are now at McDonald's, with refreshers like the Strawberry Watermelon Refresher and the Mango Pineapple Refresher with popping boba, to crafted sodas like the Sprite Berry Blast with berry flavors and cold foam. Who knew ice-cold drinks could be so fire? Try them all now at McDonald's.
Refreshers contain caffeine. Copyright 2026, The Coca-Cola Company. Sprite is a registered trademark of The Coca-Cola Company.
Hello, Holly.
Hello, Dave.
What's going on today on the What Difference Does It Make podcast?
Dave, let me say I can't wait for our guest today.
Okay, so why can't you wait?
I can't wait for our guest today. I think she is our first seven-timer. Annie Zaleski has written a book on Stevie Nicks.
Yes, not just any type of book, but a song. Well, I guess you could call it a songbook. It doesn't have the lyrics. We can't sing along to them. But tell me exactly, Holly, what is this book that Annie Zaleski has written?
Annie Zaleski has written Stevie Nicks in 50 songs. And the 50 songs are not just Stevie Nicks songs or Fleetwood Mac songs. There are songs that have influenced her musical career, songs from artists that she has influenced, that she has had a great impact on, and that she's worked with. And she has done a beautiful job of choosing 50 songs. I don't know how she did it. I think we'll find out from Annie.
Okay. So yeah, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is Stevie Nicks music. So we will get into that, talk with Annie Zaleski, one of our favorites. What else can we learn about What Difference Does It Make, Holly?
Please join us on social media where you will find clips from our interview with Annie and more chat about Stevie Nicks and maybe some other music-related topics at WDDIM Podcast and on YouTube at What Difference Does It Make Podcast.
All right. That includes TikTok and possibly Substack?
It includes Substack. We're a little slow to the party, but we're getting there on Substack.
All right. I won't include that. Now that we know everything that we need to know about our podcast, why don't we jump into the topic at hand? We are talking with New York Times bestselling author Annie Zaleski, and she is on the What Difference Does It Make podcast.
Annie!
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm at home on the computer. My husband has like a mixer and we have all sorts of stuff. And so things weren't plugged in and
radio people, right?
Yeah.
I know exactly.
Oh my God. Them with the
We're lucky to
wires,
have them.
With their wires.
Yeah, exactly. So it's great. But like, it was like, all right, the USB is now plugged in and there's all this stuff. And I'm like, what are we doing? So he was like off camera doing, tech support.
Oh, he was on. We saw him on camera. He's got the plaid shirt.
The arm.
Yeah.
Anxious. And I'm like, whatever, you know them. It's fine. You're dressed. You're not wearing pajamas. Like, it's good.
Oh, good.
He actually talked to Peter Frampton.
He talks to Peter Frampton and you get to talk to us.
Exactly. It's a great day.
It is a great day.
Congratulations, by the way. You said you're a New York Times bestselling author.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, the stories behind the songs, made the list 2 years in a row for 1 week. So I'm like, that counts.
Oh,
It counts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're on that list. That's
exactly.
amazing.
I changed my LinkedIn right away.
But I love it. It's on the cover of the book.
So it's true. Oh, you wrote about Pink. Give us your feelings about Pink hosting the Tony Awards.
Which is completely smart because she is so charismatic and just so funny and just so also I think a little bit off the cuff. And so which I love that she's a little bit like of a wild card, which I think is going to make it like perfect.
Yeah.
She's like a little bit like Cher, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, there's a good reason why Cher has been in one of her videos is because absolutely, like they just have that thing there.
Hey, let's talk Stevie Nicks, shall we? You get all these projects. Did you think of, okay, let's do Stevie Nicks? Now it's Stevie's turn. How'd this project come about for you?
So this is very funny. So I joke sometimes that I manifest different things in my life. And I'm only half kidding on this because when I was doing press for my Taylor Swift book, people were like, oh, if you had a dream book you want to write about, what would it want to be? And I know I told at least one interviewer Stevie Nicks. So the same person that I worked with on the Cher book reached out to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about maybe pitching a Stevie Nicks book. Are you a fan? Are you interested? And I was like, that is very, very funny you say that. And so I was like, yes. So just kind of people I work with, that's like, hey, let's do something together. And so it was kind of as simple as that. And then she kind of ended up taking it to a publisher and sold it. And here we are.
The format of the book, was it your idea? Was it the publisher's idea?
It was kind of workshopped together because one of the things about Stevie Nicks, there's so much written about her. And a lot of times it focuses on her relationship with Lindsay or the tabloid things or her various addictions through the years. We were talking, I'm like, I would love something about her music. There isn't enough written just focused on why her music has resonated, because I think that's one of the biggest reasons why she is just such a folk hero to younger generations, is because she has written these amazing songs. And so, yeah, the format is basically, her life in 50 songs. So things she's written, but then also the things that inspired her and people she's inspired, like Harry Styles and Vanessa Carlton and Taylor Swift. What I like about it is that kind of shows the continuum, the fact that, she was inspired by the greats. She went off and did all these amazing things. And then now she's inspiring other people too.
Anytime there's a list. How did you do this? And how many songs were there to begin with that on your list to begin with? Because 50, even that, with the influences and her songs and Fleetwood Mac and Buckingham Nicks. I mean, how did you do this?
One of the nicest things about Stevie is that some of these songs she's written for Fleetwood Mac are the biggest songs. Like when you look at, granted, they've had a ton of hits. And obviously they were such a unique band because Lindsay Buckingham wrote hits, so did Christine McVie, but also Stevie did as well. So when you look at even like the big Fleetwood Mac records, and we're talking the 75 self-titled debut, then Rumors, of course, and Tusk, she had a lot of songwriting on there. And so when you kind of start with that as kind of a base, that's like a fifth of the book right there. And then when you kind of look at things like, obviously Buckingham Nicks, some of those songs have come back either in her playing them or were re-recorded. So those were kind of obvious ones. And then when you look at Belladonna, that's where it got tricky, is because I was like, oh my God, what songs on Belladonna do I include? I could have literally done the entire record. That was the hardest one, is because that record is so stacked with singles that it was just really difficult to figure out. And so, it was kind of looking at a balance, because I also wanted to put some of the songs that fans really knew about too. That the stuff that, as a Stevie Nicks fan, are fan favorites or things that, maybe weren't necessarily huge hits, but are beloved and that have good stories. So it was kind of looking at all that. And then the modern stuff was actually pretty easy. For example, like with Harry Styles, like she's talked about like what her favorite song is. A Taylor Swift song references Stevie. So I was like, okay, that's great. And Stevie herself actually has been really vocal in interviews about various songs that have really inspired her, by like Joni Mitchell, or things recorded by Linda Ronstadt, or things her grandfather taught her. So it was actually like she almost kind of helped us do the work ourselves, because she's really been vocal about talking about her formative moment.
And so did you want to tell the Stevie Nicks story through her songs? Was that kind of like a through line? Okay. Because it is in chronological order. Did you want to kind of like, we need to learn all about Stevie and it's through the song? Maybe if a song was a little bit more personal, would you include that? Is that the way you kind of were trying to choose these songs?
We thought chronological made sense just because it would just be easier to kind of grasp onto, because like it would be weird if it was like, okay, let's talk about Rhiannon before we talked about like the stuff that inspired her. And so like first and foremost. But the thing that was actually challenging when I really dug into it is that her career is fascinating, because a lot of the songs she recorded later, she wrote like decades before. So like she had this like stockpile of songs just waiting for the right moment to come out. So that I would write about something like later on, and it was like, oh, well, she originally recorded it in 1972 and they found this demo, and it was like, decades later. And so that actually got a little challenging then, because normally when it's chronological, it makes a lot of sense. So it was more of a way to sort of trace her career, basically. But then there were all these little kind of offshoots in between it then that became, very interesting.
We read a lot of books about the songs, like how a song came together, that, the history of that song. But you have so much interesting biographical information with each entry. And so you think about an artist. She's been in our lives forever. But I learned some really interesting stuff, maybe obvious to some bigger fans. But even the cover of the Buckingham Nicks album, which I didn't know her issues with it. I didn't know how that came about. I just didn't know the story. I didn't know that she had issues with it about being topless, that she didn't necessarily want to. So you had so much good information packed into each entry that you get a full story. Very well put together is my point.
Thank you.
But also about, I know I'm jumping around here, but like, the whole witch thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think you came to it during a few different areas of the book, but you didn't focus on her being, people's singular belief in that. It told a bigger story.
that was such an interesting sort of section because, yeah, I mean, the long time joke. And, and it's funny, I was trying to find like the patient zero of her being accused of being a witch
Yeah.
because it was when she was in Fleetwood Mac. And like, there is apparently like there was some interview she did that I worked really hard. I do a lot of research for these books, as you can probably tell. And like, there's a Fleetwood Mac fan website that would keep track of random articles going back in the day. And like I was on the Internet Archive looking at
Mhm.
things, trying to find like where this actually came from. Because it came up pretty early on. I didn't find that. But I found all sorts of things where she was asked about it in the 80s. Not to like spoil anything for anybody, but I found like a school in like the late 90s banned people from singing it because they were accusing her. And it was just like, wow, that's the late 90s. There are all of these weird things. And so I wanted to like address that, but not make it the focal point because it is such an
Yeah.
important part of her mythology and inspires her songwriting and kind of why people are so fascinated by her. But it's kind of a compliment. It kind of enhances the music that she's making.
And also the support of other artists and other
Yeah.
female, not just female artists, but a lot of female artists. We knew this by observing her over time, but you sewed that together too with Vanessa Carlton and with Taylor Swift, which has, been a little bit more in the spotlight. But it's a lovely story for someone of that caliber to be so supportive, like unconditionally, without any of the female, what people expect.
That's exactly it. The press, a lot of times, or other things, always like to pit people together or pit women against each other, especially. And Stevie has never played in on that. I mean, from the second she joined Fleetwood Mac, she and Christine were like best friends. She's talked so much about that. And it was kind of like them against the world. Like you never really heard about them fighting. Obviously, the relationships around them could be very contentious, but she and Christine were always really tight. And other bands, that might not necessarily be the case. And so, yeah, that lesson, and she's really kept that throughout her career, whether it's, elevating younger singers or elevating and mentoring artists. I love that she gives out the little moon necklaces to people. So it's like, you're my sisters. And we've heard stories. Like, I think that there's been some other younger artists who have said, yeah, I've been texting with Stevie and she's been helping with things. She doesn't have to do that. And she does that very quietly, too. That's the thing, is that, she doesn't make a big deal about it. She is just kind of that person, kind of like a natural warm mentor. I feel like is really, really important to kind of point out, because I think that's another reason why she's so beloved, is that she is really helping shepherd the next generation of Stevie Nicks into the world.
You talked about this in the book, about how she talks about these other artists, not just that she's mentoring them, but what she gets from them as well, which is really great. They're all younger. She's the queen,
Absolutely.
and so I really enjoyed hearing that as well.
And it's genuine too. It's not like it's sort of like it doesn't feel transactional. It's not that she's like, I'm going to support this younger artist so they support me. I mean, she showed up at the Eras tour in, I think, Ireland. She didn't have to do that, but she's hanging out there, and Taylor made a nice speech for her. It's just very cool. She and Taylor went to a wedding together. They're like literally BFFs. Like, I love that. That's very sweet.
And so besides this witch mythology, there's also the Rhiannon mythology. We talked with Danny Goldberg, and apparently there was going to be like a movie, like a Rhiannon movie. They were trying to put together a screenplay. He was shopping this around. I feel like there's like, who is Rhiannon? And that, like that's kind of been like a big mystery. And I think that's also added to the mystique of Stevie Nicks is this song. And who is Rhiannon? Is Stevie Rhiannon or what,
Exactly. Rhiannon can be whoever you want her to be. That was also really interesting when I was doing research on stuff, was she was going to take time off from Fleetwood Mac to go like shoot this.
Mhm.
Like they were raring to go on this. And then, yeah, like it ended up like not being able to happen. But even as recently as I think during the pandemic, she said, still finding something, we have something
Yeah.
planned. Like she is like determined to shepherd that into existence. The idea that it came out of like a real book that she found that someone like gave to her, I think that was really kind of a cool discovery, is that it does come kind of from a real thing. There was a specific author actually that she talked about that where she got the book from and kind of inspired her. But I was like, I love it. That's kind of been lost to time because that song is so massively popular. The fact that like whatever was the actual origin of it and the fact it became also so closely related to her. I'm going to make my own sort of movies about it and poetry and things like that. I love that. And yeah, and Danny tried his hardest. I mean,
Yeah.
no failure.
It was actually surprising. You feel like Stevie's just full of confidence and just ready to take on the world. It took a lot of prodding and maybe just hearing from other people like, no, she's not a solo artist. And Danny, they had like these conversations like, no, you got things to say. I believe it was probably Silver Springs, that not being on Rumors, that kind of like, yeah, I do need to go solo. But it took a lot to get her to go and make her own record.
I mean, she started off her career as a collaborator, dating back to when she was in high school. She fronted a band. I mean, I think that's also like one of the cooler, I think, lesser known origin stories of her, that, she was in this band Fritz that actually has a record online, like with her on it, that like of like very, very early stuff. And you listen to it and it's super cool to kind of hear like baby embryonic Stevie, doing her thing.
It's more than you need. I won't take a lead. I've catered your thirst and your wishes came first. But now you succeed in showing your breed. Well, enough has been said. You won't go ahead. I've no further use for your own kind. I'm not inclined to let you gain your mind and take advantage of me. Take advantage of me.
She was always such a collaborator with then Lindsay and then Fleetwood Mac. And so the idea of being a solo artist, I mean, to carry something yourself is very intimidating. What I love about it is that everything she's done kind of as a solo artist has been really collaborative. Like when you think about like the Belladonna sessions and, maybe she's off doing her own songwriting herself, but the recording sessions, so much going on, so many kind of like super cool things. And so she's really even made it sort of a collaborative process there. But I mean, also the music industry was also so sexist at that point. And so a solo female artist, you had to be sort of a certain way if you were a solo female artist in like the late 70s, early 80s. And Stevie was always herself. Stevie was always like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to wear white, maybe I'll wear black, whatever. And she had her look down and was obviously such an influential look, but she was doing things her own way. And Belladonna, it fits in now and you listen to it and you're like, this is such an amazing record, but it's not very 1981. Like she sort of steered AOR in a new kind of direction with that record, I think. Kind of having Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were also, they were dealing with contract drama at that point too. And so she kind of brought them back in. And so it's a very interesting sort of era where she stepped out solo.
We are talking about Stevie Nicks with Annie Zaleski, but time has come to take a break, so we will return shortly.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
We're back on the What Difference Does It Make podcast with our friend and New York Times bestselling author, Annie Zaleski.
I was wondering about this cover. So, the Edge of 17. It's the white winged dove, which I used to think was a one-winged dove.
Me too.
But this, what type of bird is that?
I believe that is a dove.
No, it's a parrot. Look at it.
See, I have terrible eyes. You can't ask me to see it.
All right.
I think it's a white-winged dove.
Well, it's supposed to, but
two-winged.
I'm looking at that is a parrot. This morning, I just looked at it and it just occurred to me like, wait, that's not a dove. That's a parrot. I don't know if anyone's ever made mention of that. Someone must have.
It's funny because I so associate her with a white-winged dove.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it. I'm like, oh, it's a dove. Like, I'm kind of like with you. I'm just like, of course it's a dove. They
Yeah.
probably banked on people not looking very closely. I am not as familiar with what different species of birds. That definitely does look like it would be something that you would be having at home.
Do you know the lyrics at all? Do you know what's on the back? Come in out of the darkness is on the back. Do you know what song that's from? I couldn't think of that initially. And
See-
why she would put that on the back.
Well, I'm pretty sure that she would put that in the back because the whole album was made during this sort of time at the very end, like right as this album was coming to a close, her best friend got sick, which was really, really difficult for her. And also, it was a contentious time in Fleetwood Mac. This came together after Tusk, which, was obviously this massive accomplishment, but didn't sell as much as Rumors. Not that anything could. And they went on that massive, massive tour. And she was going solo. Like, I feel like Fleetwood Mac, that was a little bit weird too. But this record meant so much to her because it was so personal. And so I think the idea of coming out of the darkness, it's very kind of figurative as well, is that you are doing your thing and coming into your own in a sense.
I mean, I've often wondered, like, if Mick Fleetwood had not was in Sound City and heard this album, clearly both Lindsay and Stevie would have careers. Have you thought about, like, if that was not played, what trajectory would Buckingham Nicks still be together? Would there still be? They break up and get together so many times.
It's like a sliding door.
Yeah. Like, what would you? Yeah, what is your moment?
This is a screenplay waiting to happen. We should edit this out and just go off and write this and sell this.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a very interesting question because you're right. Buckingham Nicks did not do well. It's funny because they were huge in Alabama, which I think which is so funny to me. And, just because out of all the places, but they were very supportive, which I think is so cool. It shows how regional radio was at that point, right? That it could be popular in a random place and not big in big cities. It was popular in Cleveland, apparently. And I always heard rumors that, no pun intended, that they were supposed to be booked at this tiny club here, and then Polydor pulled tour support. A radio person always says, hey, they were supposed to tour and didn't happen. So speaking of the road less traveled, but I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. Stevie and Lindsay had good connections. Maybe Stevie would have been pushed in to be a solo artist sooner. Maybe she would have been a songwriter because Buckingham Nicks had some of those Fleetwood Mac songs.
Yeah.
Played them live and they sounded good. There's just something about when the 5-person lineup got together. It's just that chemistry. And obviously there's the explosive interpersonal relationships. People have been trying to replicate that sound for decades now. They never quite have. There's just something about that. So I don't know. It's a really good question. Stevie became a solo artist because she, and she was so popular, obviously, because she had the Fleetwood Mac fame, but she's a stadium artist. Very few women become stadium artists. And, and the fact that she's been doing this for well over 50 years now and is a stadium artist is incredible. And since she got there because of her songs, I mean, that's the long and the short of it is, had Rhiannon and some of these songs never gotten the massive, massive exposure, she might not have done that. But maybe she would have met someone else and done it another way. I don't know.
It's up to us to decide. We're going to write the screenplay. So that's how.
Exactly.
Yes. It's
like the movie about what if the Beatles never happened, right?
Yeah.
So there was, as you mentioned in the book, Daisy Jones and the Six. There's that story. They tried to recreate. Were you a fan of the book and the show? And
So
how?
I didn't read the book, but I liked the show. I did watch the show. And, and I love that Stevie watched the show because that must have been a bizarro moment for her to sort of, watch a sort of fictionalized version of her life come to life on the screen. And I liked it. It was fun. They really strived to capture sort of that era. And I like that she was supportive of it, that she wasn't just denouncing it or saying, no, this is terrible. She was okay. She knew that it was what it was based on. And she knew that she was okay, I can see this. And I love that she had a soft spot for it. That shows her generosity again, which I thought was super cool.
Did you ever see Stereophonic?
No, they got sued by Fleetwood Mac's producers. I think actually Ken Calais, because I think don't quote me on this, but I think if you look it up, there was some contention that some of the things that he said were lifted for that. And so there was a big lawsuit. I don't know if that was settled or not, but there were some pretty serious allegations.
Interesting. Okay. This article came out on April 1st, so I don't think it was true. But they were talking about season 2 of Love Story, the Kennedy Bissett. And then, so Buckingham Nicks will be season 2. Would you watch something like that?
Yes. I mean, yes. Funny thing is that as people, I think that was an April Fool's Day joke. Stevie's worked with Ryan Murphy. She's been on American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Like, what if that actually is season 2? Like, she could be a consultant on that. That would be like the greatest, like, that would like break records right there. Because, I mean, it wouldn't be as ill-fated, obviously, as the first season of Love Story. But there's really something to be said about this, especially the fact that in recent weeks, Lindsay has said, we're kind of talking again, things. I mean, I never thought the Buckingham Nicks record would be reissued.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on the book when the reissue was coming out. And so I had to change the text before it went to print. Because originally I had something like, this is a beloved curio, never been reissued, blah, blah, blah. And then they made news they were going to reissue it. And I was like, I believe Stevie and Lindsay had owned that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They were at an impasse about it. And so something defrosted about that, which was so delightful because I've been such a fan of that record for years. We have a Canadian pressing of the record. I mean, just huge, huge fan.
So maybe you are actually manifesting this. Maybe with your writing of the book, with now Buckingham Nicks, and maybe Love Story, maybe it will
exactly
continue manifesting.
Ryan Murphy, you can call me.
Yeah, it was like Billy Lord to play Stevie and Connor Story, which I love.
Casting.
Yeah.
I have no complaints about that. That's really fascinating and smart casting. I mean, it would be. I mean, think about it. It would just be. It would be super funny. And then you have Mick coming in. I mean, it would be great.
I saw a number of years ago at Largo in Los Angeles, there was a musical about the coming together of rumors. It was a really good show. I don't know why it never expanded. I would hope it would. People love the love story of rumors, and it's a story that goes on and on and on. It will always intrigue future generations, I think.
It is true. The amount of copies that Rumor sells in a given year.
Mm-hmm.
I did a story about this a couple of years ago, is because it was the top selling vinyl record. It sold bonkers copies. And I'm like, this record came out almost 50 years ago. What is going on with us? And so I kind of talked to people, and I talked to some teenagers about this too, just to be what is it about this record? And it was so fascinating because, it does come down to the music, but also the way they captured trying to move on, but having interpersonal drama. They encapsulated so well what it means to be human and trying to relate to other human beings when you're not getting along and when you're trying to find equilibrium in such a great way. And I think that record, when you listen to it, it sounds so good too. It definitely sounds like it was recorded so well that it's very warm and inviting. It doesn't sound like 1977. I mean, there's so many records that we can listen to. You're like, oh, a lot of 80s, our beloved 80s, but some of those records, you're like, oh, can you remaster those or can you remix that a tiny bit? It's hard to listen to. But Rumors still goes down easy. I think the same thing with Belladonna. Belladonna still sounds great. Stevie, I think when she got more record label pressures, some of her 80s records definitely are a little bit dated. But I mean, I'm sorry, I can't wait. Every time that comes on, I just want to blast that. That record is so massive, even though it is such peak 1985.
Oh. One of my favorite, I have many favorite articles in The Onion, but one is guy hearing The Chain for the first time, mind about to explode. He thinks the song's about to end, but then the bass comes in and his head is it's just about to go nuts as the song continues. Hearing that album, especially for the first time, oh my God, this is amazing.
And I love The Chain. I mean, and that's, the fact that has become such a, first off, used in advertising and used in in England especially, it's super, super popular. But the idea that it came from a couple of different songs. I mean, I think that's what's been so cool in recent years about how when all the demos have come out for different things is that you can kind of see how those songs came together. Like I mentioned earlier, much how Stevie has all of these songs she's stockpiled and might redo or just bring out again. Same thing with something like The Chain, which came from a bunch of different things. It's funny to see kind of the origin stories and how things sort of actually came about. The songs endure, and because that's the story of Fleetwood Mac. Even though, so many people have cycled in and out of the band and their songs and their albums have different sort of sounds, but it's all kind of that essential thing. And then when you look at Stevie's solo career, it's very similar. She has different people that she's worked with for a very long time. Mm-hmm. But she's worked with other collaborators, that worked with other songwriters. The members of Fleetwood Mac will cycle in and out.
There was an article that was published yesterday in Yahoo by Michaela McRae. It says, your Stevie Nicks and Lindsay Buckingham song based on birth date. So what is your birth date? Annie?
So I'm a Virgo, so September 2nd.
Born on the 2nd, 11th, 20th, or 29th. Dreams by Stevie Nicks. You're someone who came into the world on a day that's connected to the moon, which oversees how we nurture and want to be nurtured, as well as our intuition and instincts. In turn, your perspective is colored by caregiving, feminine energy, and emotional intelligence. The iconic classic Dreams, written by Stevie Nicks for Fleetwood Mac's Rumors in 1977, reflects your romanticism and heartfelt experience in the world and showcases a moon-influenced person's signature sentimentality with the lyrics, like a heartbeat drives you mad in the stillness of remembering what you had and what you lost. Is that correct?
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Part of that, I think fits.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's cool.
All right. Holly.
Just tell me my song. You don't have to read the whole thing, but tell me my song.
Holly, it's April. Holly just had a birthday.
She
That's
did.
right. Happy birthday.
Was it April? Oh, God. 5th? 5th. It is 5th. Okay. Born on the 5th, 14th, or 23rd, Rhiannon is your song. And mine is Silver Springs. So there you go.
We got good songs.
We did get good songs. Good for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think we might be reversed, though, Dave. I think I'm more Silver Springs, and
I don't know.
You might be more Rhiannon.
I don't know.
I just want to hit one more point for discussion because I love Don Henley so much. Leather and Lace.
You see, I love that song. When she got inducted into the Rock Hall and he walked out, obviously they had such a very contentious sort of romantic relationship, but they remained friends. And that song in particular, and so I can't even have words because I'm not the biggest I'm not the biggest Eagles fan. I can be hit or miss on it, but their voices sound so great on that song. It's so beautiful. And like I said, that people need to look up the Rock Hall induction performance of this. Stevie in general that was a really, Harry Styles came out as well, which was also great. But Don walked out and he was just having such a great time. It was so tender. And Stevie was so happy to have him there. And, I know they toured together and obviously they did the song together, but I feel like that is the quintessential performance of that song because they're bringing age and experience to it. They're two people with a long friendship and,
Face to face, it's by the city on mountain. Stay with me, stay. I need you to love me. I need you today. Give to me your leather. Take from me my land. Take from me my land.
Okay, anyway, I'm done gushing, but yes.
Okay. Good.
I love the song.
Not good that you're done gushing, but good that you feel this way because I'm in full agreement. I just love, even with the contentiousness, it's just there's something about reading about them together and, the song, of course. It just,
I wish that they'd made a full album together. How great would an entire record together with them would be? Because Don's solo work is so interesting and definitely his sort of, in the 80s was a little bit trendier, but he's done more classic stuff. And so I feel like them getting together would be really interesting just musically to do a record.
Honestly, I think that's why Stevie Nicks is just a great performing artist. She works off other people so well. You're mentioning the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance. I think back to when Fleetwood Mac got back together again, and Stevie and Lindsay are singing these songs back and forth to each other of their breakup, of their heartbreak. They're looking at each other, and Stevie is just selling it. I felt like, oh my God, did they get back together, or what's going on between these two? There is so much going on.
Silver Springs. You're talking about the greatest TV performance ever by anybody. Of Silver Springs on the dance. See, they didn't get back together because that is Stevie being we're back together and I'm getting my revenge right now on camera, on TV. That was no acting. That was definitely, so for people who have not seen it. So this is Silver Springs and that song itself has a long history because it was not allowed to be on Rumors. And then Stevie wanted it years later to be on a collection of hers and was not allowed to do that. And that's why she quit Fleetwood Mac at some point. I think it was the late 80s-ish. I believe that was the date. And she was like, no, I'm done. She was so angry about it because that song meant so much to her. Another reason why, it's you want to talk about why we're doing a book on her songs, her music means so much to her and her lyrics. So that song in particular, and the fact that they're getting back together, they're going to play it. So she's able to actually sing that again with the band, so that's a little bit of revenge on her end. And then she's standing next to Lindsay Buckingham. So God only knows if, what led up to what was going on off stage. And then she's basically exorcising her demons through that. I have a sweatshirt. You've probably seen it. They sell them. It's like, well, I'll find it because it's basically a screenshot from that. And it's just a sweatshirt that says, I am listening to like the greatest thing of all time. It's Stevie Nicks boring a hole through Lindsay Buckingham, on stage. In my opinion, it is the greatest TV performance of all time. Every time I wear that sweatshirt, I get strangers comment being like, okay, that's a great sweatshirt. Like it has just transcended pop culture at this point. I get so excited by like that in particular because especially like, with the rise of YouTube, people need to read the comments on YouTube of like I think one of the clips of that because the comment section is also hysterical.
Yeah.
Because people are just like are commenting on that in particular and just like it's a great read. Honestly, I think that's one of the reasons, people are so, the idea that like, and there's something so profound about that, right? Of being on stage with your song, singing to it, getting the ultimate revenge on your ex. Live on TV, he can't do anything about it.
It's a dream for most people. Yeah,
like,
that kind of revenge.
Wish fulfillment for so many people. So like Stevie is like the avatar for like getting revenge on your ex right there. But like, it wasn't planned. I mean, and that's why it's so powerful is that it's sort of like you're performing and things you're overcoming on this. And it's only been in recent years that this has really kind of come into, people have really picked up on it. Back in the 90s, I don't think everyone was excited about the dance, but
I remember picking up on that instant. Like when I saw that, like, I was like, oh, okay, Fleetwood Mac's getting back together. That's great. And then I watched it and like, holy shit, this is amazing. I need to see this band again. This is amazing. Everything was being played out during this concert. Like, there is so much underlying tension in here. I love it.
And that's music.
Yeah, that's why we love this. That's why we love this band. And that's why we love
Shakespearean drama of Fleetwood Mac right there.
100%. Yes, indeed. All right, Annie, we've come to the point where you start selling your book. How do we find this thing?
So Stevie Nicks in 50 Songs is out via Running Press, and you can get it online at all of your favorite retailers, and it'll be in stores as well.
Oh, talk about your Substack. I love your Substack. I love the playlist, like everything you put in there. So tell us about Substack.
So much like most people, I'm like, all right, I should have a newsletter. And I've been very sporadic publishing stuff over the years. Well, first off, I was like, I want to share music with people. That's the one thing that I love doing. And it's so hard to do that on social media at this point. And I love curating things. I've either done radio DJ or done curation. And I'm like, okay, I don't have an outlet for that right now. So I basically said, okay, I've been really lax the last few weeks because I've had a lot of work. But every week I'm putting together like a playlist and something like very manageable, like 12 songs, not something that's going to be a huge commitment. You can just kind of listen to it, both old and new songs. Because what I also like to show people is that there's a lot of new music coming out, but it has a lot of ties to things you know. So I'm kind of putting that together and then also sharing thoughts on stuff. Like I wrote an essay about like The Cure's Boys Don't Cry, Johnny Marr interview, thoughts about REM. And so just kind of things that are sort of on my mind about different things. And so it's just under my name on Substack. And so it's fun. It's just an outlet because like people aren't going to hire you to do random thoughts, personal essays on different things like that. And so it's just kind of a fun way to connect with people. So thank you. I appreciate that. I've been trying really hard to like build it up because it's definitely a time commitment.
Oh, yeah. You're my favorite on there. I look forward to receiving that email. It's very like, oh, good. Yay. I got something to listen to on my walk today. This is great.
That's exactly what I want to do is I tell people like, hey, it's something you'll know. It's some other cool music because, I mean, there's so much new music coming out. It's also so hard to keep track of. Like I'm having trouble keeping track of things just because the amount of stuff that's kind of flying around. And so I also want to keep a better kind of document about different cool things I like too. People are like, so what's your like end of the year list?
Wow.
So now I can have some sort of reference point to these different things.
Can you tease out anything on the docket?
So actually in August, I have a book on Dolly Parton coming out that also mentions Stevie Nicks. So it's Dolly Parton, the stories behind the songs. So it's from the same publisher as my Taylor Swift book. So it's Taylor Swift. And so I did one on Beyonce, the stories behind the songs. So we have one on Dolly Parton, which was also speaking of having to like trim down and decide what you want to cover, that's it right there.
As always, Annie, we love having you.
We're fans of the same music, so it gets overwhelming. We can't get enough in.
But that's fun then, because it's music makes the world go round, and being able to talk about that stuff just makes life better.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And this has been a total pleasure, and we cannot wait to talk to you again or see you in person.
Awesome. Sounds great.
All right. 7 Times a Charm. Did you enjoy Annie just as much as you did on number 1, her first visit?
You know I did. I think I may enjoy Annie more each time we chat with her. She is delightful. She's knowledgeable. She loves music as much as we do. She's a dream.
Well, if you want to continue with this dream, you should follow her on Substack, as she did mention. Some great music choices, and you can kind of get a sample of her writing style. But we would also recommend check out this book on Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks in 50 Songs. It's out now and available in your favorite bookstores, I'm sure. Also online, right?
Absolutely. It's beautiful, too. We didn't even talk about the photos of, I love seeing Stevie Nicks' clothing and just her fashion. We didn't even talk about that with Annie. There was so much more to talk about. She does mention Stevie's style quite a bit, like her collection of shawls and just some of the items that we always see her wearing. The hat.
All right. So we also love our podcast. This is your first time. Welcome to our podcast. We are What Difference Does It Make? You can find us at wddimpodcast.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. And you can learn about all our past excursions with our podcast and what we do over here. Where else can they learn about What Difference Does It Make?
On social media, we are all over it at WDDIM Podcast and on YouTube at What Difference Does It Make Podcast. Check us out there, Substack and TikTok. Thank you to Seta Bedrosian Zink at Running Press for connecting us again with Annie.
That wraps up our episode. Hopefully, if you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe so we can see you next week. We have episodes every Friday. So until then, this is Dave.
This is Holly.
Check you later.
Over and out.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
300 Favorite Albums with James Campion.
I don't think there's an album I know better front to back. I learned how to play guitar to a lot of these songs.
If I could pick one record to hand someone and say, this is what it feels like to be a woman, it would be this record.
You know, the engineer that was recording the album for us was a novice engineer. He was really the janitor.
The first half of these sessions for the album were totally improvisatory in the sense that they went into the studio and just dealt with whatever happened.
There was space that was left for these listeners to kind of discover it for themselves. That they would say, yeah, my parents listened to it, but I had to build my own relationship to it.
Happiness, good living, peace, love, rock and roll. I just feel like this album is such a wonderful translation of that concept.
People understood they were in a world historical moment, and it felt like it was going to last forever. In fact, the infinite spaces that they explored in The Giant Now is part of what made that explosion so huge.